What's good? So I'll give everybody a second to get in here. We'll kind of get started. Crazy morning, especially with equities. I have some alerts set for this POI on dollar CAD right here. It's right at the London low as well, under this area of liquidity. It's a little deeper than OTE. If you draw it on the full range, that's where I would draw it. I wouldn't draw it down here. That's the previous session. But I do have some alerts set there. Ideally, we want to see if this is going to be a bullish week for the dollar CAD. We would want the low of the day to be put in either today or tomorrow. So if we do get nice confirmation here, I'll look to get a trade up to these highs, but ride the rest out to the weekly weekly and daily target. But still developing. We'll see how that goes. Now, I'll go ahead and just start off with indices because I know everybody's wondering like what the fuck is going on. So we talked about yesterday how we would most likely see some manipulation coming into today's session because of, we're coming off the holiday. We're at some really key levels. I don't think that it shouldn't be to many surprise that we saw some volatility this morning. Now, we had some bearish news come out. We also had some bullish news come out, if I'm not mistaken. I think that here we'll look. I think one of the PMI was above. Yeah. So this is better than expected. The ISM PSI or PMI. So that happened after the initial push. So again, we've went over. Sorry, excuse me. We've went over the trade model we use during these kinds of days, and it's pretty clear today. And this is why I said yesterday, and I also put out that I was not going to trade until after 10 a.m. So when we're looking at price action this morning, if you look right at 10 a.m., right there, that's where we saw the reversal. It's not a coincidence. So just go ahead and I'll delete all of this TA. A clean slate. So there was actually a really clean setup pre-market right here at like 6 a.m., which is a really weird time. You have that 3 drive. We've talked about 3 drives quite a bit lately, and they're a very easy pattern to spot. Just simple 3 drives up into a higher time frame POI. In this case was the 4-hour supply candle right there. So there could have been a sell opportunity. I didn't partake in that. I wasn't even up yet. I woke up at like 7 this morning. But also, I'm pretty sure there's a breaker on the 1 hour up here. Actually, yeah, I mean, it did take stops. So the breaker could have been another potential point of interest. So that would have been pre-market and could have given you a little bit of a inclination to be hesitant to long during the morning session until after when we, got our reaction. Because if we're looking at this from a form of institutional perspective and structure, you're looking at bearish order flow. And the reason I say that, because everyone's going to say, we're bullish, which theoretically, if you're going by basic market structure, yes, on the 4-hour, you're bullish. But the problem with that is whenever you're looking at the institutional structure, we just had a shift to the downside with displacement, leaving fair value gaps and a breaker right in a premium of this range right here. So we saw a pretty rough move off that coming into the morning session. We also had news, and then we look on the daily chart. Let me go to NQ. Actually, I just realized I was on the SPX. It's a very similar setup, but when we go on NQ, we come to the morning. Or the 1 hour. See if there was a breaker. Yeah, same setup. This is actually cleaner. Not a 3 drive on NQ though, but still pretty clean price action as far as that breaker. That's not really what I was, would be worried about or trying to trade that, because, these occurred way earlier than I was even up or trading, or really out of the time frame that I even trade indices. Also, what's up, guys? I just now saw the comments. I forgot ETC. I can do that. My bad. Leaky. I got you. Sorry, I forget sometimes. So he said sub smarty pants. Thank you, I guess. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, for Nasdaq, whenever we're looking at this range, it's very similar to the range that we dumped off from, I think, the beginning of last week. Very similar to this right here. So, we built up a ton of liquidity all through here, and everybody probably tried to play each one of these lick rates, right? And last week, and this was something I kind of just noticed from last week, we went straight for this low. Now, this is very similar to what happened today, on a much higher time frame, because last week we were coming into a daily fair value gap as soon as the week opened. I think it was on Tuesday. Not as soon, I should say. But, and we've talked about putting the high of the weekend on a Tuesday and then moving down from that's exactly what happened last week. So we can see last week was a very clear bearish week. So what we want to see here, and this is going to be a fickle weekly model just because we had a holiday on Monday. So theoretically, one could treat Tuesday as your Monday. That's the way I would look at it. And if we are looking to remain bullish, we had to make a move to the downside. Now, to where, I didn't necessarily think we would move all the way under this low, but the main areas I was looking at was this low right here. I've been sell side liquidity. And then I was also looking under this low. And the reason I looked there was because all of these fair value gaps through there. Now, obviously, we did not get a reaction from that that level. So another thing too, I think actually I want to say NQ might have got a reaction from this level, because yeah, this is where it was. This is where it was questionable. Where to be honest, you could have taken a loss here, and I could see how it happened. Like, let's just say you use this as your POI, you got a shift in market structure, not really any fair value gap. So if you use fair value gaps, that would have saved you from that. But if you just use that displacement shift in market structure, there was no break, but the displacement shift, then you could have maybe taken L on a long right here. And the way big obvious reason to not do that is because news was coming out in 3 minutes. So that's how that could have been avoided. And also, when we're looking at the overall range we're in, if we go into like a 1 hour, it'll be more clear. It wasn't, actually, yes, it was. Sorry. I was going to say it wasn't in a premium or a discount, but it was. But once we wait for that news to come out, you're already poised to be at a higher probability than if you wait before. Because in my opinion, trading, now if you have a very wide stop loss or different entry reasoning, then trading at a before news, whatever, maybe you enter and you have a really wide stop. I don't know. I try to stray away from it just because I know that we get volatility that comes with that news. So once we got down to this region and it wasn't even 10 yet, I kind of just said, okay, I'm waiting till after 10 a.m. And by 10 a.m., we were already in the trenches down here, right? So right here, you see at 10 a.m., we had ran down. Now, what I had marked over here, when I'm looking at this daily zone, the daily order block, sorry, excuse me, guys. When I was looking at this daily zone, this order block here, I saw, if we look at just the daily zone wick to wick, we'd already touched on it over here, and we hadn't really traded all the way into the body on the daily yet. On the weekly it had, but we can also look at that weekly like a very massive candle, or even look at this as the order block, or this down here, right? So when I see something like that, I always want to refine it. So what I did is I went to the daily, I marked out this zone and then refined it down over to this area over here. So what's actually kind of funny about this zone is I had taken a trade off of it. It's I have to zoom in and rewind, but I had taken a trade off that zone before, and it came to me. I was like, damn, that's the trade that I got the FOMO demons on, because I took that and I cut it like very quick. So when I see us into that zone, we've rated liquidity. The news came out better than expected. It's past the time where I said, this is where I'm going to be looking. Remember, we talked about it yesterday. I was overall looking for, through the week, some form of bullish momentum. So, it was kind of hard to, not be scared by the crazy move down. But what I did was I waited. And after 10 a.m., we are in that POI. And I wasn't necessarily using the POI. I would have taken this trade whether it was the POI or not, but it was a nice compliment. And then price, we got that shift in market structure. We didn't get a close, but I've learned that oftentimes Nasdaq will still move. We just get that move to the upside with a break. And then we had that fair value gap, which was right here. I just entered right there. I didn't wait for the demand candle, which seems like that would have been the absolute snipe right there.
I took the other one.
Which one?
This
candle
right after that.
No, the second. This right here.
Yeah, that right there.
Yeah, and that would be the M1M1. Like that would be even clearer.
Yeah.
Because
it was scary this morning.
Yeah, right. It was, but I was like, I almost didn't take it. But I was like, bro, like, better than this. Like, this is literally what you sit here and tell people to not do. So, don't do it. Because I was scared, bro. I almost didn't do it. Like,
I literally got out where you have your TP. That's where I got out. Yeah. I was like, I'm out. I'm done trading. That's what I was telling Fancy. I was like, I'm done.
Yeah, literally.
I don't need any more.
Totally fine with me. And it did go farther. Whatever. I don't care. Because I took an L this morning as well that I'm going to go over on the Aussie dollar. Or not the Aussie dollar, the Euro dollar. I'm sorry. I almost took an L on Aussie dollar, but I didn't take that trade. But so, took 1 L, then a 3.8. I rode this fully to the take profit. So totally fine with me to be where that, at that point on the day. But that is a very simple trade. Just waited for, my rules, which I told myself today, I'm not going to trade till after the news. I don't trade indices till after high impact dollar news. I just don't do it. It's not a good idea. Now, it can end up really good for you, and there's going to be people that are going to say, well, I traded fucking FOMC and I made money. It's like, well, I'm happy for you, but please don't get used to that narrative, because it's not.
Yeah, and don't tell people that.
Yeah, literally.
Want to almost just don't.
Actually, a pretty clean little potential sell setup framing. It's lunchtime, so I'll see how we react.
Displacement to the downside.
Yeah.
See it? Yeah, you got this.
Yeah, something up in there. I probably won't trade it, but something to keep an eye on. But yeah. So I mean, and the reason I took profit right here, it was the beginning of a 15-minute fair value gap. That was like the first reason I looked at that area, and then also it was right at equilibrium, right? So we obviously see it went higher. It did. It went up to our buy to sell range over here. It looks like, or almost. Well, no, actually it did. So, you went to your little buy to sell, and now you could have whatever. But for me, this was enough. I could have taken it farther. Could have been, whatever, an 8R trade. I get it. But, in this kind of market, especially whenever we have that big of a move to the downside, I'm happy with anything over really 2 to 3R. So, I want to see how this day closes. Preferably, I want to close this 4-hour candle above this low. If we can close this 4-hour candle above this low and maintain somehow, and that would leave me to believe that we might see some moves to the upside. Because now if I see us come down into, because yes, there's displacement on the downside, but what I also see is this displacement on the 15-minute. Now there's not a break of structure on the 15-minute, but I would still monitor this zone, especially if we start to, do this number around it, which I don't know if we will. Start to dance above it and see that in the afternoon. I'm not trying to predict that. I'm just saying if that happens, that would be ideal for a bullish narrative. But we could also see another raid down into these lows. So ideally, we want to close this 4-hour candle. We got 40 minutes up above this low, because that would lead me to believe that that was just a liquidity raid, and I would seek the highs here and here. But again, we're not going to try to predict the future. That's kind of where I'm at with that. I haven't even looked at Bitcoin that much this morning. I did a paper trade on earlier. I bet it hit. Maybe it did. Maybe it didn't. Let's see. It didn't hit the full TP. But I did this. I didn't take it because the spread wasn't there. I'm glad I didn't take it. But because if one thing you have to do with MFF, you automatically got to go $30. So I was like, okay, that's not there. So I didn't take it. It didn't actually hit the full target either. So would have ended up either a break even or a loss, but no paper trade. And the reason I took this was, reason I plotted this or had the idea was because price had came under a 15-minute low right there. And then the 5-minute had a break of structure. Well, a change of character, I guess you'd say right there. And I looked at this little flip zone. And then after that flip zone, price saw nice little displacement coming out because I would have looked at, let me rewind this so you can see what it looked like before. Whenever we got above this high, that was to me a shift in market structure. No fair value gap, but I just said right there, I was like, okay, I'm just going to test it and just see how it would have went. But that was the ideology behind that. Get rid of the replay mode. I'll hide that just so I have it still for later. Overall, though, I mean, this range has been pretty choppy. I think it's doing what it's designed to do, and that's exhaust retail traders. It's going to just move with wherever indices go. If I look at the internal structure, I mean, you could look at it this, but if you're a little more aggressive with it, and we did kind of get a high there, a low, and took that out. So it's two ways you could really look at it. Ideally, if we wanted to see a move to the upside, if we do come under these lows, we want it to be very rapidly bought up. Now, if we're not, and we start to drive down, I may have been wrong on the power of 3 narrative. We'll see. I'm not going to switch up my bias till it's invalidated. If it ends up being wrong, it's not the end of the world. But what I see here is us probably drawing at least down to these lows. Again, it's going to really depend on how indices move, Nasdaq especially. So again, it's the lunch hour. So the morning's price action on Bitcoin, I mean, really not much special, if you ask me. I think the value was on indices today because I almost treat Bitcoin like an indice now. It just has way higher spreads. So if I don't have a big expected move, it's not worth it. Somebody asked what OTE is. That's optimal trade entry. So if I take a fib and it's the 7.9, 7.05, and 62% retracements. And it's just whenever you are mapping out an impulse move, it can give you an optimal trade entry, hence the name, paired with your higher time frame analysis and different POIs on your chart. Euro dollar, I think I already took it up because I journaled it. I was back testing. There was a nice short opportunity also before New York session here. It was down here is where I took that L. I'll show you guys, and I'll show you why I took it. Now it's counter trend, and what I wanted to occur here. Let me turn back on my sessions. So nice raid of the Asian highs, right? Paired down with the break to the lows. Perfect. I mean, if you were trading London session, this was butter, right? Very nice move. We came down under this level of liquidity into a POI. So once we came down to that region, where are we at? Oh yeah, we came into that, we swept the zone, and then we got this nice little break. Similar to the setup on Nasdaq, I had set limits for the beginning of this first fair value gap. I already deleted it because I put it in my journal, but it was something around this. Pretty quickly invalidated. Wasn't much time in that trade. Saw some nice moves, and I was targeting, so just so you guys know, I was targeting this candle right here, or the beginning, I'm sorry, of that right there, because I looked at this as the 5-minute confirmation of that 15-minute zone. So I would want to see price come up and fill this imbalance before moving down. And I would still pay attention to that later on, but that one obviously didn't work out. Took an L, but that was kind of how my morning went. And then I took Nasdaq that kind of made up for it. So happy day. thankful for that Nasdaq play. I'm thankful I didn't get scared and not take it, because I was almost gonna not take it. I really was. You know, honestly, here, I mean, because you could look at this right here as a flip zone. I usually don't really trade. I'll test this whole little buy to sell range as a flip zone. If you get maybe a 5-minute break of structure, which it hasn't. Well, I mean, if you consider that right there, I wouldn't really. So I'll forward test it, but could see a continuation down. Overall, I think that we have a very high chance of this being, if we start to expand rapidly the downside, I think this is a very good chance to be the high of the day or the week right there on euro dollar. Euro dollar to me is as bearish as can fucking be. I mean, like at this point, I wanted us to bounce off this monthly order block over here on the, but I think we're going for these lows and really lower, in my opinion, somewhere in this region down here. The 91 to 96 cents region. I mean, that's a very wide range, but it's like a 500 pip range. But I think it's 500, right? Yeah. But so very bearish on the euro dollar still. Between the energy crisis and everything they've got going on, I don't think it's going to let up anytime soon. But yeah, I can't tell my computer get off that shit. What was another pair? Oh yeah, this is something we went over yesterday. So we definitely got that big push above the buy side liquidity. Now it's so big that it's almost kind of questionable if we were reaching for this weekly imbalance where I had for the dollar yen. So I had this up here marked. So we'll see how this week goes. We're not rushing anything here. This will be more of a swing trade, but the daily, I mean, moved massively up. If I'm looking at the monthly, yes, we're in this monthly order block, but the way I see it, we're already well above the mean threshold of it. So, by ICT logic, looking at just the monthly, you would almost look for the high up here. So we'll see how that goes. I'm not going to rush anything. What I was looking for, we went over yesterday, but for those who weren't here, I wanted us to push above these recent highs and get a reversal, but we did not. We did not get a reversal. So trade idea isn't really there yet, but we'll see how that one plays out. Now we talked about Aussie yen yesterday, and we also talked about how they had news coming out. So it's a good thing we didn't take anything there before. I think we were somewhere. Was it like in here? We were streaming. Yeah, it had where is it? It's like right around like 9. So we got that 5-minute displacement break of structure. All I did was go down and seek the opposing liquidity. They had that news at 12:30, which was right here. And there was very high impact news. I think it was their inflation rate, I want to say. I could be wrong. It was something high impact for the Australian dollar, and the New Zealand dollar had some news. So again, it's just like Nasdaq this morning. You always want to wait until after the news because you can easily become manipulated. Looking at this, you might end up just wanting this high up here. Because again, I'm looking at this from the standpoint of, we're already well above the mean threshold of that order block. So on the daily chart, there might be something in the 4-hour that holds, but on the daily chart, it almost looks like we're wanting this buy side now. There's something else. There's another pair I wanted to go over. Oh yeah, ETH. So looking at ETH, I refined this supply down from this wick, I think down to either a 1-hour or a 15-minute. There's this 1-hour candle. Now, it's respecting it to this point. I wasn't watching this. I was just on a call. So actually, it looks like actually, this might give an entry like now. So I'd like to up our exposure a little bit. Let me see what the risk reward. I'd rather have. I don't like using the lower time frame stops. Well, actually, I did fill the imbalances on the. Let's see what the risk reward would look like. Because for me, I would just be looking to take it down to this region right here. I'm probably actually down to like here. So I don't want to be too get too bearish with shorts here. Is it the same? Oh, 61. Yeah. I like this. I'll go ahead and alert this one. Yeah, so I gotta type this out. I'm gonna do ETC for you, Adaliki. I quickly displaying price delivery range. Do I have a moment? So that can be a few different things depending on who you're talking to. You could look at that as like the swing range. Was it 1661? Yeah. That could be the swing range the price is trading within. That could be the impulse move. So for instance, for me, what I would consider is like something like this. So I look at this right here. Draw it backwards. That would be like a price delivery range, right? So then I would look for price delivery arrays in a discount if I'm looking to sell, if we're bullish, because if you're going to play a retracement, we rated liquidity of the range. So now we will return down to, or well, we're anticipating a return down to sorry, I was reading some. We're anticipating a return down to a discount. Or it could be a swing range where you're looking at, swing structure from like a supply and demand, which, would be your swing structure. Something like this right here would be your bearish swing structure. I'll go ahead and look at ETC now. Ideally here, I guess this was an imbalance that was partially in a discount, but the price didn't return to a discount, which, it's not necessarily required for that to happen. Here, I'll do this. Let's say, actually, never mind. But, ideally we would have wanted to come to a discount. And again, it's not required. So that's in the weekly. So now if we're looking at, this is going to be the next area of buy side liquidity on a weekly chart that I would look at. On the daily chart, we've got these highs. It seems like it was already swept. I mean, I look at it like, just off the high time frames, like to me, this is really where we started moving rapidly off of, right there, like that high. You could even say, I guess, this high. You get taken. What's the high of this candle? 424. No, it didn't get taken. That I would say there'd be a lot of liquidity above this high just because that's where we started to move down from rapidly. It wasn't necessarily here, but we came above this high into this supply candle on the daily that caused this internal break of structure. Yes, the swing structure is bullish on a daily level, but our internal structure broke down, which would lead me to look for us to come back down to a discount. Now, the highest value range I see is going to be right there. I guess I need to change this. So if I'm looking at the daily chart, ETC, I'm actually going to set an alert for this. That would be my high value area for longs, because it's more at a daily premium, or I'm sorry, a daily discount. So if we come above this high and we start to reverse maybe on like a 1 hour, start to distribute here like it looks like we might want to do, I'm going to set an alert for that as well. We might find some short ideas. Now, another thing to keep in mind here, for those of you who aren't super up to date with crypto, the Ethereum merge is happening, I want to say next week, or I think it's between like the 13th, and let me just look it up. I know it's in the teenths. And the reason I'm bringing that up for Ethereum Classic is a lot of people completely forget that Ethereum Classic was Ethereum before Ethereum branched off and became Ethereum. So it's going to remain proof of work while we're going to be fully proof of stake on Ethereum, the new Ethereum, so to speak. And there's a lot of people in the mining community, and also a lot of people that for decentralization that are really against it, because a bunch of different reasons. We're not going to go into all that, but we might see some interest from certain entities in Ethereum Classic due to that. So ideally, what I'd look for here, just looking at the daily chart, is potentially a push above this high, and then maybe more downside. But if I was looking to long, and I was just not really forcing, but really was paying attention to this zone, to me, I would watch this zone right there and this zone right here. Now, both of those could be good. Now, friends, let's just say you don't take the highs and you start to move down. You could watch either of these zones for potential longs into that liquidity. Overall, I would want a push eventually back down to that daily discount. Might come with the merge, might not, but that's kind of what I would be looking at on Ethereum Classic.
I just don't see what the coin holds value for people.
Ethereum or Ethereum Classic?
The Classic.
Well, it could be manipulation because people think that we're going to, or people may think that there's going to be a big transition of the mining community over to Ethereum Classic, and then that could possibly create a supply shock, because if the miners are holding it, then you might see an accumulation of the coin like you do with Bitcoin during like halvenings and all this, just basic supply and demand stuff, to where if there's more miners that are holding it because now this is their income and they wait to sell it at certain times, that could create a supply shock. Or, it could do the opposite, where it becomes just a farming coin. So it's really just kind of comes down to the supply and demand, not necessarily the value of what the coin does. But people might, larger entities might recognize that and look to manipulate it by pushing price in one direction. Update on Phil. moved down. Moved down as everything had this morning. It held up better than most. What I'm looking at now, I'm just chilling on the trade, not really worried about it. I'd look for a probably price potential to come under these lows. Not required, but if that would be nice if we got a push down there and then could see some form of accumulation under it and move up. That's what we're hoping for. It's not really surprising to see that it come down with the market this morning. It actually didn't come down as hard as you would have thought. For instance, the actual crash that we're looking at on equities was just this right here. So it doesn't look that bad. It seems like it's still attempting to stay strong. Again, ID isn't invalidated till the trade is. So just holding on to that one for now. We're still around entry. So, for those that get really stressed out or are, pressed about it, you can always take it near entry. It's up to you. I'm holding it. So, yeah, that's really it on Phil. Nothing's changed much except this move to the downside. Nice little pop this morning, but it was erased pretty quickly with that with the stock market moving down. Let me look at some of these questions now. Okay, somebody already answered, the guy in the crypto chat. Let me look at the. Oh yeah, and Haas said, great trade, took a small loss on ES this morning and then hesitated when this setup showed up. But if I would have followed my plan, I'd be up fat. Yeah, it's all psychological. Like you said, it's just like, bro, that's the biggest piece of advice. Like anytime people used to ask me like, what's, the best advice you could give a new trader? And I used to just not reply because it's a very vague question. But I've started to say, just you work on your psychology and like stop. For those that are just learning, stop expecting to earn, just expect to learn and trade with a very, just because, one person might risk 1% or one person might risk 2% or, one person risks 0.5%, whatever. That doesn't mean you have to do that. Like if you find yourself in a trade and you're like stressed about the stop loss hitting or you're like afraid, you got to ask yourself, like, am I afraid of being wrong? Or am I afraid of losing money, right? If you're afraid of losing money, that's an easy fix. You just lighten your risk while you're learning. And sure, you might not make as much money, whatever, but that's okay. You're trying to build a foundation for, your trading as a whole. Now, if your problem is you're afraid of being wrong, you kind of just got to reevaluate your beliefs about trading because that stems from you thinking that you have to be right all the time to make money. And that's not true. I actually tweeted about that this morning. So many people on Twitter and so many, gurus, like, and you guys probably know who I'm referring to. There's a lot of people that have very high status in this space that try to like give themselves a God complex because they're a narcissist and try to, do a lot of things to manipulate people's vision of them so they can, be their quote teacher. But in all honesty, it's one thing to teach people analysis, but if you teach people analysis with flawed psychology, you're literally signing them up for death because giving like that perception that success is just about wins and is just about, being right all the time and catching the bottom and, just making it look easy, like kind of like, fuck you, this is how I do it. It's just fake as fuck. And it hurts people because it gives that ideology that that's reality because it's not. Like I'll tell you right now, I'm wrong all the time. It happens, right? And you can see it in the chat sometimes. Like for instance, you get a trade that's right. We hit 88 for like 6R. People are, ecstatic, happy. Then there's a trade that hits -1R. People are in a fit. You know what I mean? And those if that is you, there's no personal. I don't care, but just notice that mindset, like you'll never be successful at this. I promise. And if you find yourself like tripping out over a loss. Now, I'm not saying it's not going to ever affect you. Like when I took a loss this morning on EU, my girl literally walked in. I was like, yeah, I just took a fucking L. I'm like, I'm not happy about it, but I'm not going to sit there and like waller in it and like cry about it, because what that does is it just makes you're in an emotional state now. And so now you're not operating from a state of logic. You're operating from a revenge perspective, and you're not viewing things objectively to where you're going to be able to, make that loss back. But there's a little rant on that. I just see it so much now where it's like, it's at an all-time high just because markets are crazy now. I think a lot of people's 2020 endorphin rushes ran out, and, this is going to be the part that's going to filter out the people who are here to be professionals and to stay at this. And then the people who are, more or less here for bull runs, which, and I'm not talking down if that's, if that's your MO, and that's cool, but don't expect to take this, long or as a main profession if you can't get really in touch with taking losses. Somebody asked me in the Discord, why did I take Phil long? So the daily chart had the same kind of accumulation, manipulation, distribution schematic that I was looking at for Bitcoin. We had never retraced back up to a premium of this impulse move. Now, we came into this order block down here on the daily. The 4 hour got one break right here. Right. And this is whenever we took the ADA longs. I wanted to take Phil, but I didn't because we took ADA, which ADA ran nice too. But we had this candle I refined down. Right. So then a break of structure in the 4 hour within the daily zone. So now we're seeing bullish order flow. Price comes back down. Go to 1 hour. I think it was just this whole, it was like I did the last candle maybe. I can't remember exactly what it was because it's not the 1 hour. But I drew, I think it was just that last 4 hour candle. Even though it was a bullish candle, it was just the last candle before the move up. And it took liquidity. So it was a sweep candle. That's probably why I drew that. Then price came back down into it. As price came into it, we saw a 15-minute change of character. Then we saw this accumulation of orders, manipulation down into the fair value gap and under the lows, and then push up. And after that, so we were starting to see a very bullish order flow, right? In the background. Now, this wasn't our entry model, but it was supporting the fact that the bullish order flow was in place. So then we look at where we really expanded from, which was this 4 hour, down candle that took local liquidity. Price came back into that zone and gave similar price action where we took the high. So now we have this candle that swept liquidity. As price returned into it, we came up, came into this 15-minute supply right here, and then flipped that supply. So I used this demand right here. So we got into that last night. Price kind of moved it to the upside for a little bit, but I think it might end up wanting some lower lows. But that's that was the logic behind that. And somebody asked for Adam. We'll do that one now. Delete some of these marks. So I saw something about Adam. There's something going on fundamentally with Adam that I'm not sure what, but I know that there is something that people were talking about. I think I even saw some YouTuber was making something. I don't know if it holds any value, but just there's food for thought. Daily. So I look at this as daily internal structure. I mean, I guess you could really look at it as swing structure. It's pretty choppy, but pretty bullish up until, we came into this supply zone. So we could see a reversal here. Now, pretty equal highs right here. I'm just going to go ahead and mark them as equal highs instead of buy side. So I look, we came back down to this zone right here. I wanted us originally to come back down and come into this 4 hour zone. I think I have an alert set for it, and it never did. A lot of lows front running it though. This is going to be kind of finicky because, when we're looking at this from a market structure perspective, Adam 2.0. So there's, I'm not up to date with it, but we look at this chart. That's that daily internal structure or swing, depending on how we look at it, how you draw swing structure for this pair. And price comes back down to that daily demand zone all the way down into the refined zone right there. It sweeps some liquidity over here. So, this is a high value area, but the only problem is, if this doesn't get taken, and we leave those equal highs, one could look at this as, a weak low down here because it didn't do its job. Now, I'll still entertain price. I would say you're probably heading back down now. I mean, let's see. As long as, well, you're actually at a pretty decisional point, to be fair. You don't want to come under that area right there unless it's just a very quick wick. If you start to go bullish here, you could maybe look to take a trade up to these highs because I want that to get taken out. There's a lot of liquidity up there. But again, it's not necessarily required. So I wouldn't force anything here. Seems like the zone's got swept once, failed to break above the high. I don't know if this demand's going to hold, to be honest with you. If you don't get a nice reaction after sweeping these lows, that demand will probably fail and you'll move to the downside. Atom's kind of in its own world right now. It looks a lot different than a lot of crypto, I guess because of the Atom 2.0. What are indices doing?
How do you get your coins with a header like that?
This down here?
No, like on your right hand side, you got them all labeled and organized.
You just right click and hit add section. So you just do that and just make it, New York pairs, Asia session pairs, indices, metals, whatever you want to do. Nice little reaction.
Yeah.
Nice little reaction so far here. It's not really the ideal time for that, so I probably would see that get swept, but we'll see. No 5-minute change of character or anything, but for instance, I mean, this looks pretty clean. If this were in session when I'd be trading, this wouldn't look like a bad long, but it's just the times they're not there. I don't trade during the 12 to 1 lunch. Almost always. I mean, sometimes you'll see a move without you, but you'll almost always see the liquidity get swept. I mean, yeah, if you hold above this, though, or maybe sweep it one more time and start to see bullish action, you might see a push back up to take out these highs, or maybe these highs really right here. What's up, Anonymous? How you doing? I mean, that's really it. I mean, if you guys got any coins, just throw them down. I'll be getting off here in the next probably 5 minutes or so. But yeah, if you guys got anything you want me to take a look at, just drop it in the chat. What is actually? I'm just out of curiosity. Luna Classic, what is it even? Oh my god. Fucking to the moon, baby. Why is it actually is pumping though? No, I didn't say that I necessarily think Bitcoin is coming down, but I think that we could see the lows be swept and still maintain a bullish narrative. But for you, Silent, I see you asked. It's really going to depend on this indices PM session. So I'd watch NQ and the ES, but again, I mean, even if we sweep the lows, I still think we're going to move to the upside. XLM. Whatever happened to XLM? I wasn't watching it after that zone. I'd mapped out something, but I didn't take the trade. Oh, wow. I should have. That's always nice. Whatever. Fuck it. I mapped this out off of this low, I think was the rationale for that. This is a paper trade though. I don't want to take credits for taking a win. I didn't signal it either. So for any of those just watching on YouTube, I didn't signal in the group. Oh, that was off that POI we talked about, Trip. You hit that exact trade. Nice. Yeah, I didn't take it. I ended up mapping it out and I just like completely forgot about it until you just said that. Oh, you took it too, Anonymous. Nice. Yeah, because what we talked about, I think it was this POI down here. There's a 4-hour POI, but what ended up happening was we rated that liquidity. So anytime you see, this is actually pretty clean. Anytime you see this right here, that's going to be a high value area. Any kind of demand zone that raids liquidity, that's automatic. That's really the only thing I want to play most of the time, unless I'm layering my confirmations. But again, we don't playing that first tap of the zone oftentimes ends up in a stop loss if you use that first tap as your stop. But then we moved up to the equal highs into the imbalance. Pretty clean trade there. I mean, the buy side got taken, but it seems like these stops are getting bought up. The wicks on this are pretty big. See this from like a 15-minute view. 4-hour actually be better. Okay. So I'm just going to delete all this because too much drawing. Honestly, it's kind of odd just because of how many times it's already tapped into it, to be fair. If you want to use extremes, didn't theoretically violate it. I'll actually set an alert for this high up here to get taken. Get that 5-minute bullish price action. Could look for a long there. We'll see. Gold. This will be the last one I do. So I talked about gold yesterday. We're kind of in between on it. I was saying I was leaning bearish regardless of where DXY was at. I almost said DIA for some reason, the fucking Oracle coin, but moved pretty rough above the weekly open on Tuesday, putting in most likely what I would anticipate the high of the week to be. And now price is expanding down. I would look for this low, or at least these lows. So now what I'm actually going to look at here is this. This is just total speculation. Yeah. What I'll look at for this, if we can get, if price starts to, whenever we form a swing low, wherever that may be on the 1 hour, I'll move the fibs to the bodies of the impulse move. I might even use this actually. And I'll look for optimal trade entry for potential sells. If we can, it'd be really nice if we could form some equal highs down here. We'll see. Oh, wow. You said Gala. You didn't even say gold. I'm a fucking idiot. Okay, well, I'll do Gala. That will actually be the last one. I have like my stream client mixed down or minimized down where it's small. I haven't actually peeped Gala, but this isn't looking bad in all honesty here. So I'm just going to X everything. So ideally, I'm not trying to overexpose myself to really a shitload of longs in crypto. We're already in ADA, which ADA is up pretty far. We've already taken most of the position. So that one I'm not really worried about. We're exposed in fill. So, and where we're at, I'm not trying to really like ape in to a bunch of longs. So ideally, I would like to see this would come with Bitcoin taking the lows. We'd take these lows into this daily institutional candle and 4-hour little range before we move to the upside. Really, I could probably actually mark this would be where I'd mark. But I'm still going to keep the alert there just because I like that wick. Same level pretty much. But really, this little sell to buy range on this refined from the daily. Now, there's liquidity under these lows. So if we could see a push down into this, and then a move to the upside, that would be a very much higher probability trade than taking one on here. Not to say here we look bad, but I will say the only problem I have with Gala, and Bitcoin's even a little bit better than this, whether we're talking about this high or I would really say this is really your swing or your internal range, which is very wide. So what I mean by that is for the 4-hour to be bullish on a market, a simple market structure level, we'd have to come up all the way above here. Now, just like everything else, we've got all these ominous lows that are kind of just lurking. The 1-hour is looking, theoretically would still be bearish if you use wicks for internal structure, which I do because we pipped that there. So the structure would be bearish in the 1-hour as well. I think this is one that looks even more likely to take the lows than Bitcoin. I could be wrong, but what I would wait for personally is a move back down into this zone. And if we don't see a spring there, we'll seek lower. But if we can see some bullish order flow within this zone, I would look to long up to this high, if not into this imbalance. And that would be just the power of 3 again. But more so this high just because, or maybe even the imbalance fill depending on the risk to reward. Don't want to get greedy, but if you look, we really didn't take out the sell side on Gala. To me, this is where the sell side liquidity resides for this range. On that note, I'm going to hop off here. Zach, I got you, Anonymous. I got you. And then Near. I got 2 more in me. That's it. 2 more. Near. We had shorts in this, or we cut these shorts break even a while ago. Then I'm surprised they haven't got stopped out at this point. I would have seen some nice gains. Ideally here with Near, I mean, you could be going for this high right here just because see how we came back in. We got that daily change of character. We came into the daily imbalance. Looks like a premium. I mean, I'm sorry, a discount. Why do I always say that backwards? But yeah, it came into a discount and moved pretty aggressively away from it. So this actually looks pretty clean, if you ask me. For continuation of the upside, we probably see a retracement above that high, but not required. What I'm going to set alerts for is that 4-hour zone. And then come back to that later. That's really it. All she wrote for Near. I wouldn't be FOMOing into it personally, just because the daily target came into that imbalance. There's really no daily liquidity target. So, I mean, it's an iffy one. Depending on how far this moves, or ideally we want it to leave equal highs for us to get along. Just kind of like what were we just looking at that was like that? There's another coin. I don't know. I have alerts up. I can probably see. It'll jog my memory. ETC, that's what it was. So just like ETC, if we could form equal highs, give that retail perception of resistance, and then maybe frame longs around here. If we move too deep into these imbalances, I'd probably just scratch the idea. But either way, with this zone, as long as we don't move too deep, this zone will be potential long entry. And I would just wait for the 15-minute to confirm it. ETC, we already did that one, Anonymous. Zach will do, and that is the absolute last one. I've said that like keep saying it's the last one. I actually do have to run. I'll go get a haircut. Zach, why do I have? Wait, this is the wrong chart. Did they take it off purpose? on Binance? I guess they did because there was open interest. Or no, that's the. That could be for spot. MEXC has got it. I mean, MEXC, they keep fucking hitting me up for a partnership, but I don't want to do it. I think I talked about this the other day. I'm just like super skeptical of putting my name next to an exchange, especially in this world economy. Would not be surprised for them to get rugged. You know, I mean, this doesn't really give me that much, but I would look for. This looks pretty nasty right up here. Oh, 1,000 ZEC. Okay, cool. Thank you. Good looks, Mel. Thank you. Okay, now that we have a clear view, the other liquidity on that feed was shit. See how we came off that fair value gap? Trying to see if we came back down to this. Like that wick was after the. Yeah, it was. I mean, this doesn't look great to me. This is just one of those things where I wouldn't even really spend time looking at it. Personally, just because it's doesn't really have a clear intention, you know, because to me, yeah, there's an imbalance here. There's going to be equal lows right below it. This is one of those I would just kind of sit out on. A lot of other coins you could watch, but you know, if you were looking to be a buyer, you would look probably anywhere during that range, anything under this low. If you're bullish, that would be where you try to be a bull at if you get structure. But again, you just have those equal lows that are lurking. So, but on that note, I appreciate you guys as always. If you have any questions, feel free to tweet me, message me, and all you guys in the Discord. Obviously, you guys know I'm really easy to get a hold of. And yeah, until tomorrow, be safe. Don't ape in. If you had a good day today, go ahead and get outside or work on some other project. But until tomorrow, I'll see you guys later. Peace.